So the first thing is knowledge. The other thing is to have a dopamine detox. Now I tried this. It's actually very difficult. Like you get off your phone for a number of hours. You do these.
Or try forgetting your phone at home when you go out. Try to do that.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
It's like losing an arm.
Losing an arm, exactly. Another thing is if you have a meeting, say you have your friends coming over time you'll realize everyone takes out their phone. So what you do is you have a little basket, and when everyone walks in, they have to leave their phone there. And every now and again, you'll find someone reaching for their pockets and stuff.
All be doing it,
yeah. I mean, it's interesting at Speakerscorner, people aren't. Maybe we're getting our dopamine rushes here.
I think
Oh, there they are.
it's a different kind of reward, isn't it? In the sense of discussing things that aren't perhaps discussed through the week. So it's kind of it is an addiction in itself,
Yeah.
isn't it? To be in your role as well. You are given an opportunity to utilise your mind in your substantial mind
Yes.
in the argument for religion and the deconstruction of other alternatives. You
Yeah.
know, but as you say, it's another question to say what's good or bad and what's healthy.
I also think that the way that we look at productivity from a capitalistic framework, usually the types of activities we had, say, 20 years ago, they were moderate to the level that they wouldn't disrupt your working life. You'd go home, you'd watch TV or whatever. But now it's come to a point where it's affecting efficiency. You go to the petrol station and the person's on their phone and they don't notice you're there. Like this inefficiency is built at every single level. Children, you're trying to teach them Pythagoras, a squared plus b squared, and they're thinking about flying high in Minecraft or whatever. So it's actually making people really stupid. People
Wait for the metaverse.
Oh yeah, that's going to be good. People are just going to...
The end. So how do we know we're not in the metaverse now, Scdawah?
Oh, right. One of those.
We got the Matrix to remind us about it coming out in a week's time.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're headed in a very dark place.
You know, with
this stuff.
you were saying
don't
earlier
know
that
that.
knowledge.
We can see it, Damien. We can see it. Look at what children are doing. They're on, children don't even talk to each other anymore. They're on phones all the time.
Saying that
Probably WhatsApping each other.
Knowledge is better than ignorance.
Yeah.
Is that always the case? Is that always the case?
That what? Sorry, knowledge?
I like that. I'll give you an example, right? So, what's his name? And there's this philosopher who wrote a paper on this, right? So, it's about truth, trivial beliefs, comfortable false beliefs, and this type of thing. So, if, say, that guy over there who's smiling, right? That guy over there is smiling, right? He's happy, he's smiling, this type of thing. If I go up to him and say to him, by the way, you do know that your body has already, by your age, which is 40 plus, right? Has already probably had some cancer cells that came and were destroyed. And I started explaining to him everything that could possibly go wrong in his body. You would actually live a very depressed life.
Not necessarily. You might think I'll stop eating, things like bacon and other kind of cancerous types of foods.
There is that, but also there's certain...
Why not red meat?
And other cancerous. The fact that they're putting nitrates.
Yeah, but what I was trying to get to is sometimes it's better to
Ignorance
have...
is bliss.
Sometimes, because there are some really harsh realities of the world, which if everybody knew, like for example, there's this discussion about whether knowledge is intrinsically valuable or instrumentally valuable. So this philosopher gave the example of threads in a carpet. Like, is it intrinsically valuable to know the knowledge of how many threads are in a carpet? Right? And obviously the answer is no. Who cares? Who cares how many there are?
In our sheets, it says 600 thread sheets, so we know our sheets.
But would somebody sit there and count it and, this type of thing? No, they wouldn't. There's also the idea of comfortable false beliefs. That sometimes people have these false beliefs. Some people argue today, who happen to be atheists, that those false beliefs are human rights.
Atheism is not a belief.
I'm saying atheists.
It's not a belief.
I'll give you an example. Yuval Noah Harari, in his book *Sapiens*, right? He's obviously anti-religion, doesn't believe in Judaism, that's his form of faith. But he also says liberalism, feminism, human rights. He says these are all fictions just like religion. Because from his atheistic perspective, there is no grounding behind any of these ideas. However, I would much rather meet an atheist who's under the delusion that human rights exist than someone who actually believes like you are, Noor Hariri, that those are fictions. I'd much rather live in a world where he has that false belief from his system.
You want a nice, safe world.
Yes,
that's
I do.
your intention, isn't it?
Yeah.
And does Islam say that, say, taking a drug like DMT is haram?
In Islam, drugs are haram.
So ibuprofen, paracetamol.
Okay, yeah. For to call anything haram is I mean, alcohol we would say is haram, or heroin, or these things are clear.
So drugs are haram?
Usually. But there are, for medicinal purposes, people can take them. DMT, I'm not. Well, there's a guy.
So there's a clause.
Is it pretty haram? Your brother's saying it's pretty haram.
Is it haram?
I'm not saying it's haram. But from what I know, it seems quite. I mean, if someone takes it for recreational purposes, that seems pretty haram. But for maybe
ayahuasca, which is accessing DMT through a shamanic ritual,
I think that would be.
medicinal for the spirit. That's
So
what
the
they
thing
would
is,
say.
look, in the chat section, and people watching this, I don't want to say something.
Hi, chat section.
Someone can post links about whether it's halal or haram. But myself,
They've got the right word.
from my understanding, from what I've looked into it, and that's not on a deeper level, for a purely recreational point of view, drugs like DMT would be haram.
Well, no, it's not necessarily recreational, is it? So if your desire was to reduce your ignorance of the mind by taking a psychedelic, that's not recreational, that's knowledge.
They are the biggest exporter of heroin to the world.
You're a smart guy, I've never heard that before. But the thing is,
That's where they grow heroin.
why not stick to the normal routes of knowledge rather
Why
than
not
this?
keep it safe?
Yeah.
Heroin comes from.
Well, this is the thing, is that I think that's the...
And people have horrific reactions to taking these things.
So there's a risk.
Huge risk. There's a guy here. He was. He actually knows a lot about DMT. And like he's done this stuff before he converted to Islam. But can I just grab? I'm gonna grab him. So look, quick question. I said to John here that DMT is haram, but
You said you didn't know, but you took it from him that it was.
no, as in for recreational purposes, yeah. And but I don't.
I defined it as, well, and I haven't taken DMT, but I'm saying that if you take DMT, not for recreational purpose, but as effectively accessing alternative routes of knowledge, that's not recreation. So
I would never turn around and say something as potent and powerful as DMT to be a recreational drug anyway.
okay, so there you go.
I'd say it's more medicine than it is a drug.
Okay.
Just saying.
You regret that, didn't you?
That's my opinion.
I'm confused. I'm actually confused.
He just said the
No, the reason why it's confused.
I'm actually
the reason why it's confused is because the statement I just made is kind of a direct statement. What I said to him is that it's a form of cheating as well, because we're talking from a spiritual point of view. But DMT has been proven to basically stop people being addicted and stuff. That's then therefore medication.
Ah,
Well, that's one.
so you can't say it's totally haram.
It's
recreational.
Hold on.
It's amoral. No. It's amoral. It was not designed to stop addiction. It may
Well, no,
have.
that's exactly what it's for.
No. It may be used. That's a different matter. We've covered all these things.
If you're
earlier.
referring to the people in the Amazon
Ayahuasca.
that have found ayahuasca, and things like that, they say that the sky gods taught them how to do it.
Yeah.
So therefore, you can put a kind of religious ceremony to it,
Shamanic,
which would then go back to what he was saying.
So
And
is
because
it-
we
is
can't
it
prove
halal
that it's
or
from
haram?
Allah, we have to assume that
What's
is
that?
a false god.
What's
And
that?
therefore it's spiritual.
I
If,
missed
it's,
the last thing.
if all the Amazonian people said
Yeah.
that sky gods came down and taught them how to use ayahuasca, i.e. to cure them of certain problems, because what they say is you go through something called a purge, where you bring up a load of crap from the system, right? That therefore could be a form of worship.
Well, you're saying
Therefore,
it.
we
But-
may
but-
have
You're
that
saying
but-
it.
but-
You're saying it. But Allah provided those sky gods. If those sky gods are true, then Allah,
No, the sky gods are not true.
No, wait.
But for
wait.
example,
Just because
alcohol
the
is
term-
natural.
No, just because the terminology is sky gods doesn't mean they're actual gods. Right? This is just terminology by the Amazonians. So it's not saying that it's got. These could be alien beings. Right? So we mustn't get lost with terminology or even what terminology people use, depending what they mean. But the issue is what makes it haram.
He's a sharp guy.
It's just hard.
So DMT is meant to be part of our makeup. So we've got DMT in us,
Yeah.
and when we die, the idea is that
It's released.
it's either the released or we get in touch with the messages that the experience of that drug. So the answer is you don't know.
I mean, okay. So for example,
He says no. You said no. What was your reasoning?
Well, I was assuming recreation.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realise it could be.
that's what I assumed.
There's honestly, I don't see
so what I'm
ayahuasca
saying
being used as a recreational drug.
Is in your ignorance is bad, knowledge is good. Take some DMT.
No, because one thing we could do in Islam is if something, things are halal, which is clear, things which are haram is clear, but if there's something grey, you should stay away from it.
Something.
Grey, we don't know.
But it's not grey. What's grey about it?
I need to look
The
into it more.
intention is knowledge, not fun.
No, but okay, wait,
Intention is knowledge,
Mike.
not fun.
How can there be an intention of knowledge with this stuff?
There is no intent.
No. To take the DMT.
There's no guarantee.
No. I didn't say guarantee. I said intention. If you take DMT with
I know
the
what you're
intention
saying.
of knowledge,
He ain't gonna have a clue what we're talking about.
well,
I don't.
I'm asking him. The thing is, I don't know. Is always a good answer.
Yeah, here the best thing is to plead ignorance, but you're saying I should try it, and I'm saying no.
Okay, so I'm saying you said ignorance earlier. You missed this. Ignorance is bad. Knowledge is good. Suboor here is saying, yeah, I'm more for ignorance.
Well, no, that's not quite what I said. Look, when it comes to the people who are saying knowledge through DMT, I would say, well, what type of knowledge are they gaining?
Well, yeah.
That's a good
What
question.
if-
That's
yeah,
the right
that is a big question.
If someone says, well, you want ignorance of this knowledge, I'll say, yes, I want ignorance of that. I don't want that.
You've already stated you want ignorance of the knowledge before you've even considered what that knowledge is.
Okay, I don't know how to respond to that.
Well, look, I can respond to that because we all know, we all have pasts, right? No judgment.
If there is time. Yeah.
Oh, exactly. But I mean, the way you phrased the question to him, and the way that I would, as someone who's experienced what you're talking about, I would turn around and say that he doesn't necessarily need to go that way.
You're the arbiter of
Because
his truth.
I wouldn't necessarily put it up, but I would turn around and say that if you're already on your path and you're set on your path, then there's no reason to alter it.
Well, there's Suboor's path cannot be altered through taking DMT, surely.
Well, you don't. No one can guarantee anything. You
So
don't know
it's
who they're
scary.
doing.
So you're saying that this could take him away from
No, okay. I'll give you one answer which I was just thinking of now. In Islam, worship is not just intentional, but it's also something that has to be defined by what Islam says is permittable. Now, this thing does sound like people used it for worship. So we shouldn't go near something from another civilization or culture which they define as worship.
Have you ever been to a Christian church?
Yes.
Well, you've just contradicted
No, but
yourself.
no.
Going somewhere near a place of worship of an
but
idol.
No,
Actively taking
actively
part.
participating.
I like the way
Actively
you went with that.
participating.
Even I got to stick up to
So
support
you
on that
could
one.
take the drug, but not actively participate. You could have visualizations, but you don't need to.
Have you tried it?
No.
Why not?
My dad just haven't had the opportunity or
Haven't made the opportunity.
Huh?
Is what you meant.
well, I don't even know
Yeah.
how to make the opportunity. Have you got any left?
That would be assuming I did it. You know, I wasn't here in this country.
But it's interesting, isn't it? There is a play. There are drugs that allow you to access aspects of mind, and it's basically psychedelic is the idea of soul, right? It's the,
Okay, from an Islamic perspective, the knowledge that I need for my spiritual well-being is in the Quran and the Sunnah. That's my source. So why would I need psychedelics or LSD or these types of things?
Yeah.
And those things are very similar to alcohol, heroin.
In contrast to science, which is an exploration of the unknown, in contrast to science, which is the explanation of the exploration of the unknown, what you're saying is that your religion puts boundaries around even your desire for alternative experience. Because basically saying, I've got everything I need, I worship Allah, everything is Allah's will.
No, I said spiritually. Spiritually. So for example, if I want the experience of skydiving, I want the experience of going to space, I want the experience of discovering a new element or whatever, that's all good. But drugs defined.
You could say that taking DMT is spiritual, or you could say it is a psychological exploration. So it doesn't have to be spiritual, it's psychological. It could be considered. So you've got everything you need spiritually.
What does it
It's
do
like-
exactly?
Everything you need that you need from Islam, from a spiritual point of view. So everything else, as long as it's not used in a destructive kind of way, is haram. So you could say, well, this helps me explore the qualities of my mind.
Okay, but that's conditional upon what you said, which is that it's not harmful, it's going to lead you to some beneficial knowledge, and these types of things. And we don't know.
Mike knows.
Mike doesn't want to talk.
Sorry.
Is it harmful, DMT?
I mean, it depends on who you go to.
Go to the
Well, no,
right
the
place.
truth
So
is,
we-
if you was to do a simple thing as a Google search, you will come up with videos that show that some people have died during these ceremonies.
Wow.
But I've not heard of people dying taking DMT. I've heard them dying of drinking like a tobacco tea.
the carrier for the DMT is effectively went to a poisonous level, so it's not really the DMT.
You seem to know a lot.
I know a lot about everything. I can't do everything. I haven't got time for
You
that.
have to take into consideration that in terms of exploring to gain knowledge, there's always a risk involved. If you're going to go on a voyage to try and, give charity in an unknown land, that comes with all kinds of danger. DMT so far, specifically, in studies with pure DMT, they haven't found the overdose limit is excessively high. Like you would have to smoke almost your body weight in order to die. It's not really logical.
So
that you die from it.
but what knowledge have they come back with, the DMT people? Like what?
It's sort of like,
I don't know.
the way I would best describe DMT specifically, and many psychedelics, when you get to a certain point, they all sort of lead to that same zone, which is ego dissolution, right? Which is
Okay,
essentially...
sorry to cut you off. I just remembered something. Mike, you can help me out. He said it's haram,
not
yeah?
sure I can.
You know about DMT? No, you asked me whether it's haram. I just remembered, in Islam, anything that makes you lose your mind
No,
is
it doesn't
actually...
make you lose your mind. You're not going to win on that. I was me the whole experience.
This is been a mistake.
Sorry, carry on.
Should I go back over there?
No, you can stay here.
What if it gave you an opportunity
Sorry,
to find your mind?
All right, look.
I think
I
I
actually
read-
said to this brother,
Yeah.
right? What if someone?
Sorry,
who was
I interrupted him.
Someone was an alcoholic,
Yeah.
and they went and did an ayahuasca ceremony, and then weren't an alcoholic afterwards. Is that haram or is that halal?
Bro, what are you doing, man? I have no idea. You're confusing.
Stir it up a bit.
No, but you.
No, but it's a difficult quandary for you.
It is. It is.
Here giving contradictory information.
Yeah.
And the issue is, are you after truth or are you after safety?
Was that truth or safety? I mean, I think safety would probably be best.
That's coming from someone.
After the fact.
After the fact.
It's a medicine like anything else. I'm sure if a Muslim was prescribed medication that, if taken recreationally, could cause an altered state.
No, but do they give it as a medicine though?
Absolutely.
There are trials for it.
Unfortunately, in this country, it's illegal even as a medicine. So it leaks into that illegal scene whereby people will take it recreationally.
They're taking it recreationally.
If I take psychedelics, I always take it with the intention of healing in mind. You know, it's not something I'm doing to get fucked up. I want to describe how it is different to any other drug in that the eco-dissolution I wanted to talk about, which is essentially that you lose sense of your body first, you go into sort of anesthesia, and then your conscious awareness leaves any of your memories or anything that you've had, any idea of your normal everyday life is gone, and you're just sort of this, it's just pure experience without a body, without a subject and object. You're just sort of, it's just the experience. And that experience of just having experience can have medical benefits. Like people that take LSD, I think 60% in a study quit smoking for at least 2 years or something like that, and 80% quit for at least a couple months. I quit smoking using LSD myself. I have gone back since a few times, but I understand how it can help in that direction.
What about just using your willpower, like the ancient system?
You know, yeah, that's a good.
Using your will.
You could argue for that, I'm sure.
Actually, interestingly, Alan Carr wrote a book on the only way to stop smoking, and it was not through willpower, it was through deconstruction of false beliefs about the addiction and about smoking. So in fact, willpower always leaves you fighting, when actually, really, I think we need to get into a place in our mind experience of this world of experiences, not simply by will, but through understanding.
That's a really perfect point that you made though, because that's exactly how I come to Islam in the first place. Deconstruction.
Through deconstruction.
Yeah. If you start experiencing things and you start seeing things in a certain way and you start deconstructing, and you have to accept that if that is the premises of which something is happening in front of your very eyes, and you're experiencing it and you know it to be true, then you have to accept it's true, otherwise you're being ignorant.
I think basically the outcome of all of this is we're starting a DMT club open just to
that's my
Muslims. Open just to Muslims.
Bring back the opium den, but just the DMT.
Anyway, I appreciate your.
Can DMT not be addictive though?
Huh? No.
No.
Next.
I think the experience is too much. You don't want to.
No.
Sorry?
I think the experience is too much that you wouldn't want to go back to the same.
Look, if I'm allowed to say, about 90% of the people I went to this ceremony with never went back for another go, and they had paid for it. One experience was enough for them. They'd seen and heard all they needed.
But did you look into the?
I did all three.
You said you was yourself the whole time.
Yeah, 100%.
But you could still consider it your mind is altered. So when you say your mind is still altered in that state.
No. The big, like what he said, the biggest thing to go is your feeling that you have to control and know everything, because you soon realise you know nothing.
That's right.
That's an ego death, right? Form of
Yes. How you doing?
Good man, you're right.
In terms of your level of awareness, in terms of your ability to feel as if you're comprehending what's happening and whether or not you know it's real is unaffected. You know, it's as if whatever it feels like it's me was just taken out of me, but that still it feels like it is there. You know, your mind. I would agree that your mind isn't altered. I think it's.
Don't you think it's interesting that we started to discuss this, and you got your colleague Mike to come over, and these two other guys who've had DMT, and this guy who's knowledgeable about DMT, we're all in this little circle. Don't you think that's a bit interesting?
Yeah, it's very interesting. And he said what I didn't expect.
I'm surprised you didn't know I'd actually come along and say that.
No.
I've been wanting to have this conversation for a long time.
So this is, but what I appreciate about you is that you're open to discussion, and it's not just about kind of having the premise of X, Y, and Z. It must follow that. But I think there are other experiences that you could say are reducing ignorance through knowledge that are potentially positive for the world.
From my understanding, an idea as to the reason that a psychedelic experience has such like a profound impact on your sense of awareness and sort of can have health benefits is because of the reduction in the brain activity. This is something I've come into knowledge of. I don't know how accurate it is. They haven't done many studies, but meditation, people that go deep into meditation report similar experiences to psychedelic experiences.
That's you, isn't it?
And both of the experiences correlate with a decrease in brain activity overall. So, what I would like to say is, if reduction in brain activity can be beneficial, does it matter exactly how it's brought about? Like, if a kid is trying to figure out how to tie his shoelace, you can leave him for like a day and he'll probably figure out a way to do it. Or you can just get in there and tie it for him and then have him watch and he'll be able to do it again. That's how I would explain like a psychedelic experience. So it's sort of like a push into that.
I've got to make a point on that.
Yeah.
Because this is why I've been bugging him for a long time to have a sit down and discuss the subject that we're talking now. Yeah. And the reason why I say it like that is because I can also see it through the same way that he's interpreting it. Yeah. And it's like, the truth is, you have no idea who it is that's teaching you.
Yeah, that's right.
That information, that knowledge, that experience, everything you're talking about, you don't know.
Or from the Islamic perspective, it could be the devil.
But
that's my point.
But this goes back.
It's the
You have
devil.
no idea. Just because 99% of it is great doesn't mean there's not 1% of.
That could be destructive.
The brother has made a good point, which links into a conversation that we had before all the junkies came. Jokes.
Thanks, bro.
Jokes. Is the issue of dopaminergic addiction to outside both the, like Twitter or TikTok or whatever, YouTube, right guys? So all of this addiction, but we're also addicted to our mind. So if you consider that all these external factors we're addicted to, we're also addicted about how clever we are, what thoughts we have, look at me, and that is what this brother is saying, is actually moving away from that, and maybe some psychedelics kind of pull you out of it, but meditation helps you move away from
But people
that.
in the past did it without psychedelics.
Yeah, because they were in a more